Throws off his heels to the end zone, and the catch is made for the touchdown. Tyquan Thornton.
This is the Sikkim 365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show, brought to you by
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952. IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs. Convenient, affordable. That's Ideal. Edward Jones Investments, with agents Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Tom Albers, and Cam Heathcott. Makes sense of investing. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Our goal is to get you back in the game. Stonewood Dental, your comfort is our priority.
Ebner angling that cuts upfield. Ebner is on his feet. Ebner is to the sideline. He is tipped toward the sideline, and he is into the house.
Petty Clinic Low T, helping you become the high-performance man you want to be. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, metal buildings, metal roofing, steel and pipe. The Pioneer way since 1943. Baylor University, where lights shine bright. Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131. First National Bank of Central Texas. Bird Culchin Ford, your home for Texas-built Ford tough trucks.
They dropped the snap. Purdy throws off his heels, and it's intercepted.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Saturday afternoon. Good afternoon. We have some more evidence in college football, some more evidence within the top 5, 10, 25 around the country. The Big 12 with a surprise going on in Morgantown. Texas kind of validated themselves a little bit in Fort Worth, where they haven't won in forever. In Oklahoma, K-State in a knockdown, drag-out struggle. David Smoke, Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoke to my right. Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie helping to run the mothership. All right, let's start with, Alabama's beating that high-flying Ole Miss offense 28-0 in the second quarter.
Yeah, I like the little score tracker we got, but Alabama's already outdated that. They've already scored another touchdown, so it's 28-0 right before halftime. Ole
And they
Miss,
are tossing Corral around like a dish rag, aren't they?
Yeah, Ole Miss has the ball with less than 45 seconds to go and just got sacked. So, Alabama's in full control. And before the game, Lane Kiffin was out there at midfield doing the pregame interview talking about, get the popcorn ready and all that. Well, Saban had his popcorn ready, and, he lives for games like this, I think. Probably doesn't talk a whole lot of trash himself, but hears the trash talk or senses the big game, and he's had his guys ready. I mean, Ole Miss has looked good this year, but they've been able to muster pretty much nothing against Alabama.
He also knows exactly who he's dealing with as well in Lane Kiffin, and that stuff is going to happen. And I think the story of today so far has been in these SEC games, and then you look around nationwide, there's a separation between Georgia and Bama and the rest of the country.
Georgia beat the snot out of Arkansas, and it wasn't even as close as the score said it was.
No, Bama just got a sack to end the first half, so that's very fitting that they bring Matt Corral down on a quarterback run, which I guess that was just to basically run out the clock because they were not going to score in that play. But Ole Miss 28-0 down at the half to Alabama. But you're right, Georgia just mollywopped the Hogs, and I saw a lot of Arkansas fans just, you just got to deal with it. I mean, what do you do? It's been a good year. It doesn't ruin your year by any means, but it does tell you, like, hey, we might be pretty good, but we are nowhere close to the upper echelon, which right now is two teams, and that's Alabama and Georgia pretty clearly.
All right, Cincinnati leads Notre Dame 17-0, late third, but the Irish had a fumble return that set them up. They're now inside the Big 12 Cincinnati's, why not, right, red zone.
They're in the 3-yard line.
Now inside the 5, 17-0. So the turnover might kickstart Notre Dame. Remember, they had a huge fourth quarter against Wisconsin last week. Let's see, Oregon's down 10. Down 10 in the second quarter to Stanford, 17-7. Oklahoma just kicked the field goal near the very end of the first half, 13-10. Their defense has been better, but they have given up big play after third down and fourth down conversions. Chris Kleiman hasn't even blinked on some fourth downs against Oklahoma, but the Sooners do lead by 3 at halftime, or about to be halftime, up in Manhattan.
Yeah, and should probably be leading by at least 7, right? I mean, had the ball knocking on the door and, just got a little too cute or whatever, Lincoln Riley, and, they end up having to settle for a field goal. We talked about Oklahoma a lot, and, their offensive line is obviously an issue, but just the whole offense in general is in a bit of a funk right now. And, granted, they're playing good good defenses in the Big 12. I mean, this year you can say that week in and week out, you are going to, face a pretty good defense for the most part, unless you're playing like a Kansas or somebody. But, you keep waiting for them to kind of wake up. And the thing is, if your offensive line's not very good, your offensive line's not very good. There's not a whole lot you can do to change that. You can't go just jump in the transfer portal in week 4. But, they're clearly, there's just something off with Oklahoma. Well, and credit to K-State, too, because K-State always plays them well, but credit to K-State.
Yeah, and Baylor, of course, tonight, Oklahoma State at 6 o'clock in a game that we're about to talk about, discuss. You'll hear from Dave Aranda and also from Robert Allen, does sidelines for Oklahoma State on this pregame. Will take you till 5:30.
Well, the Oklahoma is not as good up front. I mean, they had a lot of, I think probably because their skill position guys have been so great, not just good, but great over the last few years. People forget that they've have the last, if you take the last 15 of their, offensive line starters, probably 11 of them are NFL guys or got to look at it. And they maybe don't have that same percentage on this particular offensive line, or they just don't have a lot of experience. But that's where the biggest difference is. That offensive line just not as good as it was. And that can make for Heisman quarterbacks. It does make for Heisman quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's that. There's also, I don't think Lincoln Riley's been perfect either. I think that, he's made some questionable decisions at times or questionable play calls. And, it also doesn't help. I mean, we got to be fair in assessing the offense. Is one, it's not great. It's definitely not what we've seen the last few years. They've also barely touched the football. I mean, K-State has dominated time of possession in the first half. And let's see. K-State in the first half, 230 yards to 172, which isn't bad, but this is what's bad. K-State first half time of possession, 19:35. Oklahoma, 8 minutes and 35 seconds.
They've converted third and fourth downs consistently throughout the first half. So that's going on right now in college football. YouTube is lit up. Here we go. The chat room, if you want. The text line's open as well. If you want to call us, and or text us at 254-339-1122. So Baylor tonight, 6 o'clock in Stillwater against Oklahoma State, in a place where that used to be like goblins and ghosts. Then, in the last 3 times they've been there, they've been able to win there. In fact, it was 2 years ago, and that team that went to the Big 12 championship game won again in Stillwater. So they've learned how to win there. It is a tremendously difficult place to concentrate play. We've seen great teams go in there and come out not even alive anymore, including Baylor many, many times. So this game tonight, I'm looking forward to it because we've seen a little bit of what's happened. Texas was very impressive last week. They railed up 70 against Tech, who's shutting out West Virginia at halftime, 17-0. They go into Fort Worth and they win. Their offense seems to be rolling pretty well. Got a bunch of turnovers as well. TCU threw up on themselves a couple of times. So if you win, we've said it all week long, you win tonight in Stillwater, 3-0 with 2 wins against teams in the upper tier when the season began.
Yeah, you'd have Iowa State out of the way. You'd have a trip to Stillwater out of the way. You'd have 2 top 25 wins. You'd be firmly in the top 25 rather than if you lose today, you're probably dropping out after just a week in there. But you'd be securely in the top 20, I would think, if you beat Oklahoma State. So it would be huge. And, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into those games you just briefly mentioned a little bit. I mean, Tech and West Virginia, that's a disgraceful, halftime score for West Virginia. Maybe disgraceful strong, but like 17-0 at halftime.
I would have
against
lost
Tech.
Tons of money had I been forced to bet on that game.
That's just ridiculous. And then Texas, yeah, they looked good. I mean, Bijan Robinson's the real deal. You got to start throwing him in the Heisman race, especially since Matt Corral's probably going to drop a few pegs after today, given. I asked you guys before we went on the air, can you still win the Heisman if you get shut out in the first half of your biggest game? I guess he's got a second half to turn that around. But, yeah, Bijan's got to be mentioned in that now. He's, primarily their offense, but, what he does allows them with Casey Thompson to hit Jordan Whittington and to hit some of those other playmakers. So I think they look really good and really different with Thompson back there. He's just got more of a security about himself, more of a confidence than Hudson Card had, and he's made a world of difference for them. And, yeah, TCU didn't help themselves either, but you got to give Texas and Sarkisian credit because they haven't been able to beat the Frogs, and they beat them convincingly today.
Well, RG3 did win the Heisman with 2 really bad games in a row later.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State and A&M just absolutely, ramrodded the Bears, and he was able to rally late in the season. Of course, he won it on Saturday night against Oklahoma. That's when that happened. But there are things going on around the country that make lead you think that Matt Corral is going to maybe fall back a little bit. And it's still probably a little too early to say that, but Bijan Robinson is one of the best players we've all seen all year. And I texted this to you guys. You wonder if Tom Herman's watching that going, oh, running backs.
Yeah.
I get it now.
He had over 30 carries today.
Tom would never give
every
done
one
that.
of them.
No.
They won the game by 6, but in the last, they had to run the clock out, and they just gave him the football. He also made a couple of runs on. What makes to me a great running back is, you can go 70, whatever. To me, it's when you get 4 when you should lose a yard, or get 3 when you should have been stopped for nothing in very important times. So Texas validated themselves. And, of course, they have the Texas-Oklahoma game next week at the Cotton Bowl as well.
But clearly the transitive property means that Texas would get drilled by Georgia. If we're going by, they got beat up by Arkansas. Arkansas got beat up by Georgia. So if you believe in that transitive property, which never works that way, then yeah, they got a validating win, but there's still a few of those away from the Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah. But, no, I mean, a huge win for Sarkisian. I mean, they needed that one. And, to have now a couple wins to stack on each other, and you get to play Oklahoma now, right? So, I mean, you got the Red River Showdown that's right around the corner, and with the way the Sooners are looking and the way UT's offense is looking, shoot, I won't be surprised if Texas is the favorite in that game.
I agree.
Coming up next week, and
unless
probably
something
should
happens
be
in the second half.
Yeah. But no, that's making for a very interesting and unique game where typically you've known Oklahoma's really good, and they're like beating the crap out of people at this point, and maybe an occasional loss, but. No, this year is going to be a lot different.
All right. Again, we're taking you until 5:30 kickoff, just after 6. Baylor and also Oklahoma State up in Stillwater. Next week, Baylor has an 11 o'clock kick against West Virginia. That game would be at home. And, of course, with what's happening there in Morgantown, if you can also somehow get a win tonight in Stillwater, which will be interesting and difficult, then all of a sudden you may be playing a team that's beat down. Who knows? Because Texas Tech – that says quite a bit. Matt Wells, we've discussed this quite a bit. He's on that watch. And they're going into Morgantown, who played Oklahoma straight up. In fact, almost you could have looked at last week and they could have won that game, but they didn't, and they're back home, and Neil Brown and company are being shut out in the first half by a team that just gave up 70. So who knows what to expect from week to week.
I think the score is surprising, but, as far as part of why West Virginia is in this place, I think it's not that surprising because it's the same thing that's been a problem for them all year, and that's their offense is not that great. Their offense is just not very good. So you're seeing that today. And, Tech defense, I'm sure, had a feeling of needing to prove a little something after getting 70 hung on them last week. So, that's still a bit of a surprising score. But at some point, West Virginia, as good as their defense has been, Tech is just taking what they're giving them. They're just all right, we'll dink it down the field if that's what you're going to let us do. And so they've done that. And, West Virginia offensively just can't do anything. And so that continues to plague them and will continue to plague them.
From Common Sense in the chat room, Big 12 is very, very competitive, and I'm all for it. From Ifaro, TCU took another step backwards. From Robert Duncan, who wouldn't be polling for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
From Bear 22, predicting Baylor by 10. Keith Poza, Jeremiah Dickey's Boise squad. In their sweat throwback unis, leading by just 1.5 against Nevada. From Keith, Arkansas overrated or Georgia just that good? I think not overrated because of who they've beaten, but that's how good Georgia is.
Yeah, I think they're, a lot of people are probably quick, kind of like when Texas lost to Arkansas, to say, hey, they're overrated. They too high of a ranking or whatever. I'm sure there will be some people that say that with Arkansas, but reality is Georgia's just that good.
Artris Zephyrin, Georgia sobered Arkansas. Sobered up is what he meant to say. And then Keith, again, I'm surprised West Virginia being shut out at home. Yesterday and also on Thursday, we've had some more stories a little bit about the future of the Big 12. We know Chapter 1 is official with Houston and UCF and Cincinnati. It's just a matter of, is it 23 with them? Most likely in the summer of 23, but there's still work to be done. But those are the four, along with Brigham Young, that's going to be available in the summer of 2023. And then there's the Chapter 2 we've always discussed and have from quite some time with Boise State, Memphis, and then it appears SMU and then also USF. One thing, we had Tony Altimore on the show yesterday with all the graphics and images, and it's a lot of what the Big 12 has been feeding with. They had this. Couple of things I want you to know. This was something that, despite being knocked almost out, despite the conference almost basically in their own deathbed, this is one of those things where Bob Bowlesby, like the Undertaker, got back up out of his grave and found a way with a very small percentage of people to somehow make this happen, because it was at the end of July when he was getting bullet holed. Just riddled with machine guns. And then you look up a couple of months later and look where they are right now.
And part of it is the realization that, oh, wait, Texas and Oklahoma aren't here to throw crap at me when I try to do things now. I can do whatever I want. The obstacles are gone. They're leaving. And the smartest move that Bob Bowlesby made, the absolute smartest one that he made, which is you wish they would have made the last time around, was he did not try to get Oklahoma and Texas to stay. He didn't try to, oh, no, you should be here. This is why. That was the biggest mistake they made the first time around. They should have just focused on themselves. Okay, you guys are gone. That's it with you. That's what he decided. He went and went in front of Congress and described how important it was to keep the Big 12 together, but never once, and any of that time, it was make Texas stay. That was never what it was. It was just explaining why the Big 12 is important, and they moved ahead. They did not try to go backwards.
They just said, okay, we got to move on.
Yeah, I think that early on, they kind of, if you'll remember, they at least were like, well, we'll need to talk to Texas and Oklahoma a little bit, but I think what happened was it just became very clear, there's nothing to talk about. It doesn't matter. So they realized that, and rather than just being that desperate ex, right, that keeps calling, hoping that they've changed their mind or something, and they do want to talk to you now, or they are interested again. They just didn't pick up the phone, and they moved on, and that's what the best thing is to do, because it would have been a big waste of time, a big waste of energy, and all for naught. So instead of burning that energy on two teams who don't care for you anymore and are clearly ready to leave, then you burn it on teams that want to be with you and that do like you and have interest in you. And so I think those four teams and potentially 6 or 8 teams are all very interested in the Big 12. Clearly the 4 who have accepted the offer are, and there's others that are as well. And, I was seeing some conference realignment speculation last night. A lot of the Mountain West fans and the AAC fans and those conferences are now the ones having to deal with it because ish runs downhill. They were talking about, well, let's go get SMU and Tulsa. And I'm like, well, I don't even think SMU is going to be available for you guys, So there's some scrambling going on. But fortunately for the Big 12, they're not a part of that scrambling anymore. And Bob Bowlesby does deserve credit for that.
Brian Etheridge, one of the bosses, one of the partners of Sikkim365.com. Wisconsin is so not good. From Ryan, after Iowa, the Big Ten West is an absolute mess. Tyler says Baylor wins by 28-24. And Brian, NBC having to go to punter hype shots at this point of Cincinnati just sacked Notre Dame at 17-7. That game is now into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that Wisconsin team is, man, that's
blown out
bad.
by Notre Dame, especially in the fourth quarter, and they got beat up by Michigan. First time they've won there since 2001.
Did you see towards the end of the first half, Graham Mertz get run through? Yeah. I mean, it was just one of those things where you're like, I know he's not playing well, but it was – oh, dear. Like, that was insult or injury to insult.
Well, he's been terrible all year. He's been awful. And, it's just been a turnover machine. So that's something that's going to continue to plague them if he's the one that we're rolling out there. But, yeah, weird start and historically like a bad start for Wisconsin as well compared to what they typically do year after year. So, yeah, they're in a bad way, no doubt about it. I had Colt pass this along in regards to Oklahoma State and Baylor. Oklahoma State released their injury report, have defensive end Brock Martin is questionable. Also, for sure out, running back L.D. Brown and running back Desmond Jackson. L.D. Brown was going to be out. Desmond Jackson they thought could come back. But still, it's Jalen Warren back there, so they'll be fine. And then wide receiver Bryson Green also out for Oklahoma State.
From Keith, Brigham Young, and Houston, a couple of eventually part of the Big 12, both winning last night and looking good doing that. Brigham Young beating Utah State. And let's do the Big 12 right now. Again, Oklahoma leads Kansas State at halftime 13-10. West Virginia and Tech start the second half 17-0 Tech. And West Virginia is already inside the Texas Tech 20. Texas 32, TCU 27. And Bijan Robinson, 216 yards, 35 carries. 25 maybe more than he would have gotten if Tom Herman was the coach. 2 touchdowns. And then also later tonight, Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor, 6 o'clock against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and Texas fans can rest assured they've got the rest of this year to watch Bijan Robinson, and they've got all of next year, and that'll be it. Because ain't no way he's taking 35 carries every Saturday or pretty close to it and playing for another 2.5 years before he goes to the NFL. But, I mean, that's still a long time to have him, another 1.5 years. So, yeah, he's one of a kind. Enjoy that.
Alabama, 28, Ole Miss nothing at halftime. Ole Miss is thrown for 92 yards and rushed for 17. Some of that is sacks. Alabama, 101 passing, 100 yards rushing, methodically doing what they do.
I can't help but think, watching, I know Arkansas is not really running the full Briles offense right now just because it's, the personnel and whatnot. But, I mean, Ole Miss pretty much is. And we used to wonder, what would happen if you lined up Bryce Petty and those receivers and throw them up against Alabama back when Baylor was winning Big 12 titles and, had a crack at the playoff. And there was a lot of people that believed that offense could give, defenses like Alabama a lot of problems. And I do think, it's different now because it's been 7 years they've had to, learn this offense. So if you had thrown Baylor Briles offense at Bama 7 years ago, they're probably not doing what they're doing today. Yeah. But they have adapted to it a little bit, and they've seen it now. And that's Bama for you. I mean,
it just takes time. I think the biggest thing, and the reason Art Briles brought Phil Bennett in was he needed somebody who could look at the defenses or the offenses in the Big 12, the offenses like he was running from the ground up and go, how do you slow this down? Because, Baylor's defense was getting maligned because they were just getting run through and the games were too many shootouts. But nobody had really ever thought about it from a fundamental level of how do you stop this, because it was really so new with, when have you ever practiced lining your DBs up outside the hash mark?
No.
Nobody ever did.
Every time someone would and there were teams that could straight up beat them, but every time you thought you might have caught up to what he was ahead of the curve, he would then line people up outside the hash mark, so they would do something else. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was a give and take. And it kind of fun to watch what they were doing, and it's now infiltrated college football everywhere. Not the first or the only one to do it at Baylor, but it is now. everywhere, even in some cases the Big Ten. All right, 254-339-1122, Paul.
Steven in Virginia, you're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey guys, I'm really excited about the new candidates for Big 12 expansion, but as it is Baylor game day, I think the most important thing for Baylor today is the atmosphere of Stillwater. There have been times when Baylor was the better football team and walked into Stillwater and did not come out the way they came in. And I think personally that Baylor has been a better football team in this matchup to this point. I think that it's very likely that the Baylor defense could rattle Spencer Sanders, and it's more likely that that will happen than the Oklahoma State defense would rattle the Baylor Bears. But, I think it all comes out to, hitting Oklahoma State in the mouth when you show up because, like in 2013 or in 2017, 2017 wasn't a worthwhile opponent for Oklahoma State, but in 2013 we really thought we could come in there and beat them, and very early we found out that was wrong. So I think that if Baylor can handle the atmosphere of a night game in Stillwater and, can keep it close or be ahead or tied at half, then they have a really good chance of winning this football game. I'd love to hear what you all have to say.
I agree.
And I'll see y'all next week at West Virginia.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Great to hear from you. Good to hope we get to see you. One of the things that happens with Oklahoma State and Stillwater is the kind of place where they jump on you quickly. Like everywhere when you're home, and it's just hard to play catch-up against them because the crowd is so intimidating. It's not like no one's ever won there before. A lot of people have. But Baylor did have their ghosts and goblins, as I mentioned, but they have now experienced it, and some of those guys there tonight have experienced that win as well. A lot of questions about Terrell Bernard's status. That's going to be a game-time decision. Remember, it appeared as if everything was fine. That a lot better than what they thought. As Monday progressed, it got better and better. But that doesn't mean that they just run him out there. Of course, he's going to have to pass some tests along the way.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Bernard. I've had people ask me as well. I mean, we'll see when they suit up. I wouldn't necessarily be expecting him today. I just think that you probably want to be careful. But I don't know how he feels. If he feels good enough, then throw him out there. But if you don't have to, then I think it'd be better to let him heal up as best he can before going back out there. But, I mean, again, don't have the insight there, and I'm expecting a close game. I think the latest odds have Oklahoma State as 4-point favorites. If we consider it's in Stillwater, I don't know what it's like for everybody. I think some people consider home field advantage to be a 2.5-point swing, right? Maybe differs elsewhere, but about that. So, I mean, you're really looking at it like a 1.5 favorite in this game. That's how closely measured these two teams are, and really the main advantage is the fact the game is in Stillwater. Outside of that, I think Oklahoma State's defense is probably slightly better. I think Baylor's offense is slightly better. So, yeah, I think it's going to be it should be a close game on paper. But as we know, you roll the ball out there, and it's can be a completely different story. And even if Terrell Bernard comes back today, that's not the biggest return in the Big 12, because one thing we did not mention about Oklahoma and K-State was the fact Skylar Thompson's back today. Yeah. That was a nice little surprise before the game was announced that Skylar Thompson was back, and he was expected to still be out for at least a couple more weeks. So, even if Bernard comes back, Skylar Thompson, that was good to see for K-State.
All right, we'll break here. You want to do Robert Allen or do you want to do Aranda first? That doesn't matter to me.
Let's do Robert Allen first.
All right, when we come back from the perspective of Oklahoma State, and he's really good. We've had him a couple of times in the last month. Robert Allen does sidelines for Oklahoma State radio up in the area of Stillwater as well. When we come back, Robert Allen on Oklahoma State and Baylor. We'll have Dave Aranda coming up in about a half an hour. 254-339-1122. But let's look at the perspective of the Cowboys next on Sikkim 365 Radio 365 Sports.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. WhyBetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICK'EM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122. Oak.
It was just a couple of weeks ago or so, and Boise State was hosting Oklahoma State. Robert Allen, Cowboys sideline reporter, joins us, also a part of PokesReport.com. Sick'em 365 Radio. They beat Boise State. It was not easy. And, of course, last weekend, Baylor had a nice win, but so did Oklahoma State against K-State. Robert Allen joins us, Sick'em 365 Radio. Are they getting healthy just in time, or getting people back, I should say, just in time, Robert?
You know, it's funny. We the broadcast crew meets with the coordinators on Thursday. And when we were sitting with Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator today, he looked at us and goes, well, actually, Dave Hunziker goes, anybody new coming back? And Casey goes, I don't know if we'll get anybody new back today, but for the first time since I've been offensive coordinator, we'll start the same 11 we started the week ago. So, and he's been, he was the offensive coordinator last year during the COVID season. And then the first 5 games, obviously, this year, this will be the first time for him as an offensive coordinator to have the same starting lineup on offense 2 weeks in a row. That kind of tells you what it's been like around Stillwater for the Cowboys and the MASH unit the last year and 5 games.
Is this the reason that Spencer Sanders struggled to start the year, or is there a secondary part of it?
Well, I think part of it was Spencer missed the first game. I mean, and he was in COVID protocol and missed the Missouri State game. And because he was looking really good, to be honest. And I'm not just, throwing that out as, oh yeah, hey, that quarterback looks good, but no, he had really looked good. And then all of a sudden, he can't be around his teammates, can't practice for 12 days, whatever it was, misses the first game. So I think that probably took him off a little bit for Tulsa. The Boise game was the most depleted that they were at the receiver position. They were still pretty good against Tulsa. That's when they lost Jaden Bray. Tay Martin only played the first 2 plays against Tulsa. He went out. His ankle injury dated back to the Missouri State game. So, yeah, and then offensive line has been a little bit of a shuffle, although they kind of solidified that. Well, really, with the Boise game. That was the first game Hunter Woodard was back. He had a knee sprain. So, yeah, it's been a little bit of everything, but now they're probably in the best shape health-wise, and they will get Desmond Jackson, the running back, will probably be back, and then also Bryson Green, one of the Twins wide receivers out of Allen, Texas. Those guys should be back for the Texas game because there's an open week after this one.
Robert, that's good news on Jackson, but that running game with Jaylen Warren, I mean, how much of a revelation has he been? You know, there's questions about, all right, who steps up and replaces Chuba Hubbard, but Warren has been dangerous, you know, running the ball, catching the ball. What have you made of him so far?
You know, your dad doesn't know this. I've listened to him for a long time because I'm originally from Dallas and you know, went to Oklahoma State as a walk-on, but I've been around and I know one thing, that when David Smoke tells you something and it comes true, he will tell you. He told you originally it was going to come true. So I'm going to go back with that on Jaylen Warren. I told a lot of people in the spring, when it's all said and done, the guy that's going to carry the load will be Jaylen Warren. He is so much fun to watch. When he came in from Utah State, you know, he's 5'8", 5'9", maybe, 215 to 220 pounds. But here's what freaked everybody out. When he came in, Mike Gundy only tests players when they first report. Freshmen, you'll never test again. The next time you run a 40 after you show up and report will be your pro day. Mm-hmm. They don't run 40s every year. They don't test. They generally see what's going on in the weight room, and they can kind of tell how guys are progressing without doing the typical combine testing. They thought that Jaylen Warren was going to be about a 4.6 based on what he looked like. He ran a 4.5 flat. Now, when you're his size and you can run a 4.5 flat and you've got some maneuverability, some escapability, you know, they knew he had a shot, and nothing against LD Brown. I like LD, and LD, unfortunately, is probably out for the season. You know, he's got a lot of speed, but he's one of those backs that's a patient back that wants to kind of watch and see where the crease develops. This kid, Jaylen Warren, he gets to the hole and gets through it, and that's kind of my kind of style of back. So I've been on the Jaylen Warren train going back to when he first showed up in the spring.
Yeah, that's good news. Isn't it neat? You know, you don't want to see, as you mentioned, LD go down, but there's an opportunity. Terrell Bernard, who was the All-American linebacker for Baylor, he went out, or he got a chance because Clay Johnston went out, and immediately, right. in fact, 2 years ago, had the scoop and score. There was a huge play in the win against Oklahoma State, and he's kind of iffy right now. I know he's better news Monday than they thought about, but I love opportunities when someone has a chance for one and they actually take advantage of it as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you've been harping on Billy Tubbs' grandson. He got an opportunity because there was nobody left. Mm-hmm. They threw him out there, and he ends up catching a big ball against Boise State. And it's not like he doesn't play. He's on special teams, and he's still in the rotation. He'll come out there a little bit as a wide receiver. But, yeah, I love those. I love those stories where guys, you know, hey, it's my turn, and it's one of Mike Gundy. It's in the locker room. When they walk out the door, there's a picture of several players lined up in a huddle together, and the slogan is "Next Man Up," and that's kind of one of Gundy's favorite phrases. So it comes true every once in a while.
When did Mike Gundy lean into the flip of the conference of defense? Yeah. Because Baylor did it when Matt Rule came here. Obviously, Iowa State did it when Matt Campbell came in, and West Virginia's been running that 3-3-5 for a few years now because they were getting torched by spread offenses. But when did Mike Gundy, who was all in on the spread offense, when did he kind of lean into the defense at Oklahoma State?
about 4 years ago, he made the conscious decision that this thing was going to, football's cyclical. It goes around. And he could see where he was starting to see it with West Virginia and Iowa State, that defenses were starting to have a little more success, even though it was still, this conference was still known as the no defense league and the wild, wild west of offense. But 4 years ago, he shifted 4 scholarships from offense over to defense. And that's allowed the defense to kind of load up the last several years in recruiting. And a lot of those guys that are in that first group of 4 scholarships are guys like Jason Taylor at safety, Colby Harvell-Peel, Jarek Bernard-Converse, Malcolm Rodriguez, I think. No, he was the year before that. But some of the guys that are playing and paying dividends right now were in that first class where Mike shifted 4 scholarships to the defensive side.
Robert, Dave Aranda had effusive praise for Jim Knowles during his press conference on Monday. Just the level of respect, his appreciation for what he does. And obviously that defense is very, very good, especially against the run. You named some of the standouts, and Malcolm Rodriguez leading the way. They don't let teams run the football on them, but is there any crack in the armor when it comes to that Oklahoma State defense?
You know what? If Kansas State tried to find it last week, they came out on that first series and they started throwing the ball deep. And then maybe if it had been Skylar Thompson, who I think is a better quarterback than either Will Howard or the Lewis kid that came in, maybe they hit it. But a couple of those passes were pretty much on mark. And Jarek Bernard-Converse had 3 pass breakups in the first series of the game. And what it did, it told Kansas State, you're not going to get big explosive plays in the pass game. And OSU was able to stay in man coverage on the outside, put extra guys in the box, and that's how you stop Deuce Vaughn. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. And Deuce still, in the second half, popped a big pass play when they were in man coverage, and he kind of fell down, and the guy that was on him went ahead and took off for the quarterback, and Deuce Vaughn ends up with about a 50-yard touchdown pass. There was mainly Deuce running down the field. No, I mean, this defense it's the best defense I've seen since the Pat Jones days, when Leslie O'Neal and John Washington and a safety named Mark Moore that ended up in the NFL with the Seahawks.
I know him.
Here's a funny story for you guys last week. Green, the middle linebacker for K-State, got penalty review on targeting, and they came back and called targeting on him. Rob Glass, the head of strength and conditioning, turned to me on the sidelines and said, imagine if Mark Moore had been around now, how he wouldn't play in a game. He wouldn't make it through one game because Mark Moore was a missile with that helmet. So, this is the best defense I've seen since the early 80s.
Mark Moore played on a team in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Yeah.
And they had one of those years because they have been terrible forever. And I remember covering him. My father-in-law, late father-in-law, he went to go watch him play. I think it was at Texas Stadium. They played Temple, and all he could talk about at that time, they beat Temple. They're not supposed to beat Temple. And Mark Moore had himself a game. He was an incredible football player at Oklahoma State as well. And he would knock you out. There's a lot of guys we have old players on. We talk about the new rules. A lot of them say they couldn't play. I mean, they'd adjust to it, but they couldn't play. So,
Mark Moore would have struggled. By the way, 2-time All-American at OSU.
Oh, he's just unbelievable player. What was the any, not reverberations, but any kind of like, oh, damn, Baylor beat Iowa State.
Yes. Yeah. There was in the locker room. Yeah, in the locker room afterwards, because that game was an afternoon game, and so it was over by the time OSU played or started with K-State, but no one had any time to react to it. And, in the locker room, both players and coaches, wow. Now I'm doing post-game interviews in the locker room. In fact, I was talking to Jarek Bernard-Converse, and I mean, almost the entire team was around the TV watching that last field goal that Burkett made for OU. But, no, there's a little bit of surprise. And I think right now, if you look around the league and had people talking, Probably the biggest disappointment so far is Iowa State and Baylor. They can thank Baylor for part of that. And the biggest surprise is Baylor, and they can thank Iowa State and the win over the Cyclones for being in that position. So, and I do believe this. The team that Baylor would be 3-0 if they could pull the upset or come in and win in Stillwater on Saturday. 3-0. I mean, and I know it's not, but Iowa State was one of the top 2 teams picked in the league. Oklahoma State was picked in the upper division. Kansas, you don't count that quite as much, but you get up a 3-0 leg. And when is their open week?
They have West Virginia home, Brigham Young non-conference home, off week, and then Texas at home. They have the next 3 games after this one over 4 weeks at home.
Yeah, but they would. That's a good situation. I mean, if they got to 4-0 with the West Virginia win, finish off their non-conference with BYU, and then have an open week before Texas, it's a pretty good scenario schedule-wise for them.
Yep, I think if they win this weekend, if they do, which is going to be interesting, but that means they're going to pretty much be in the discussion until the middle part of November, if not later, because of, as you mentioned, 2 of the games that you would have won. Robert, great to have you, man. Thanks. There's a chat room from Gary Lewis, had a Big 12 football coach, came in and said he didn't think Warren was an elite back, did not have elite speed. This is from Trevor Mattich. I responded that I don't know what elite means. The kid has 3,000 yards.
He was pretty good at Utah State too. Now, let me thank you. I appreciate the RG3 stuff. That was great stuff.
Good. I'm glad you were able to use that. He was fantastic, as you saw and heard. And he'll be there in Stillwater, where he was 0-3, including getting drilled the year he was a Heisman Trophy winner. Robert, thanks for your time, buddy.
All right, guys. Take care. Be careful coming to Stillwater.
Robert Allen, sideline reporter for Oklahoma State.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, we're back. This Baylor-Oklahoma State pregame show. The Bears and the Cowboys in Stillwater. Updating Texas or college football and the Big 12. Oklahoma now 20-10 over Kansas State as they get a touchdown early in the second half. Mississippi finally scored, Paul.
Yes, they did.
35-7.
And I'm sure Nick Saban
Alabama
will take several antacid over the fact that it happened.
Yeah, there's going to be some heads rolling there. Cincinnati scored again against Notre Dame, Craig, and it could even be worse than it is, but it looks like they're now in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they lead 24-13, and there's 2.5 minutes left. I guess 3:07, but on my computer it says 2.5, so I don't know if that TV's just a little bit behind. But, they're up by 11. Notre Dame's got the ball heading towards midfield, but time's running out. So Cincinnati, already in the top 10, now facing a team in Notre Dame who's right there, similar in the rankings, will be a massive, huge win for the Bearcats, and to do it in South Bend as well would be incredible. So they're well on their way to doing that. Just have to close out these final 2 minutes. But as you said, this game should already be over. Cincinnati with several missed field goal opportunities. You had a couple of those, and it's no doubt they're winning. It's 30-13 if they just make a couple of them. So instead they're only up by 11, but that should be able to seal the deal.
You would think they're near midfield now into Cincinnati territory and driving inside the 40. Texas Tech's lead is already down to 7. West Virginia came right back out and scored. Letty Brown scored on a touchdown run as well. 17-10, 4 minutes left, third quarter.
Who
West Virginia with the ball. I think West.
I do too.
Yeah. In fact, they just had a long pass. 55 yards to the Texas Tech 26.
Well, if you just look how it trended in the first half, Texas Tech jumped out 14 right away. Oh, my gosh, they've got momentum. West Virginia's defense clamps down, only gives up 3, and that was right at the end of the half. So they were already starting to turn the screws a little bit back on defense. By the way, we need to say hi to our old friend Amelia Myers, who is in Stillwater today. She's an Oklahoma State grad. Amelia. Yeah. So Amelia, who helped us at the very beginning of this when we were at this first studio.
Shout out, I met you twice and never saw you again, but shout out to you, Amelia Bedelia.
Amelia, exactly. And Dow, by the way, you never respond to my text messages. I need some technical support, please.
He's blocked you.
Prompt technology.
Saw football season coming. He's like, no.
What's the name of prompt if you don't respond to my text messages? The hell? Yeah. By the way, here's the chat room. Jay Bird on the panic alert. Oregon came out flat with their offensive coordinator. Just got stuffed in the 17-7 Stanford. The Pac-12. If Oregon doesn't come back to win, where are they?
Well, they're in ACC territory.
Yes,
they really are.
Yeah.
So the ACC right now, Wake Forest is the best team. Wake Forest and Boston College beats Clemson tonight. Wake Forest and Boston College are the two best teams in the ACC, and they have to play each other because they're in the same. They're in the same division. So the ACC's got lots of problems.
Yeah, I will say on Oregon, they don't have their OC today, so that could be playing a role in that. I believe it was a non-COVID issue, is what I read earlier. But yeah, from what I saw, the Oregon's offensive coordinator's not at the game because of a medical situation. So, hopefully he's okay. But that could, obviously be playing a factor in the game. But no, regardless, maybe that's something the committee takes into account, kind of like they used to do in the early days with Jeff Long when they tweaked it and, basically bent the playoff the way that they wanted it to look. And they used game control one week and then strength of your uniform, alternate jerseys the other week, and like all this BS that they used to spew.
Time zone travel.
Times like that was so much. That was such crap. That was such
meal.
Jeff Long's playoff excuses or reasonings were such crap. But yeah, I think the committee will probably take that into account, but it matters how they finish today, so we'll see. But yeah, if they go down, then the Pac-12 is pretty much just done.
Yeah, rest of the top 25 to update you. Cincinnati again leads with under 2 minutes left in that game with Notre Dame, 24-13.
Go Big 12, baby.
Coastal Carolina hammered UL Monroe, 59-6. Alabama up over Mississippi, or late third quarter now, 35-7. Stanford early third leads Oregon 17-7. Oklahoma just scored again, 26-10, starting to get things going on a rattler to Michael Woods touchdown.
Yeah, 9 plays,
2
90
touchdowns.
yards.
Oh, really? And that's something they haven't been doing. Even if no explosive plays, they haven't been able to drive lengthy as well. Ohio State crushing Rutgers 51-6, 5 minutes into the third quarter.
You remember
Georgia.
You remember a couple weeks ago when people were like, "Hey, Rutgers might be good." You remember that? It was funny.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, vaguely.
I think they were 3-0.
Probably because I heard it and I was just like, "Yeah, that's not true."
In Maryland, we had a chat or a text last night, and feeling pretty frisky, and Iowa just destroyed them.
Well,
they
I mean,
just crushed them last night.
When you throw 1,700 picks, that's not gonna. We got that question like, do you think Maryland can hang or whatever? And I thought like, hey, with Tagovailoa and that offense can kind of get going a little bit on occasion. I thought, like, hey, maybe they contend a little bit and they compete, but I mean that wasn't even competing. That was just, God, that was ugly. That was ugly for Maryland.
And Georgia, which we knew probably would be a tough test, but you never knew because Arkansas had played well, got just absolutely from start to finish, had a block punt in the end zone for a touchdown, beat Arkansas. Pop that balloon, although the Hogs still have a chance to keep playing, trying to improve, get to a bowl game. 37-0.
A block punt in the end zone, especially at the point in that game where that one is the ultimate just we shouldn't be here kind of moment for Arkansas.
I think that made it 24, 27, 21-0. Here's the thing with Arkansas. They had 162 yards of offense, but they only ran 45 plays. Georgia had 56 carries alone for 273 yards.
And how many passes they throw?
11.
And they were up. JT Daniels warming up in the pregame. Looked like he was still sore. So Georgia just rolls out Bennett, Stetson Bennett, who's got the most Georgia name of any person who's ever lived on this planet. But Stetson Bennett, and they're like, oh, we're fine.
Here's a neat note in that win for Georgia. Arkansas did not turn the ball over on offense, and they still were shut out. 37-0. Georgia, good God.
Yeah, that was a bloodbath, but congratulations to Cincinnati, future Big 12 team. They're going to beat Notre Dame, running out the clock, 20 seconds left, and nothing Notre Dame could do about it as Cincy has the ball, so they're going to win 24-13. That's a massive win for a top 10 Bearcats team and Luke Fickell, and yeah, they just went in South Bend and won convincingly. And even though the final was 24-13, very well could have been 30-13, 33-13. As we mentioned, they missed some field goals. But, man, huge win for the future Big 12 team.
And Notre Dame, I think they're still good. But this is the first good team they've really played. And you see what happens. So you maybe see where on the scale of good Notre Dame is in that, the first game – they went to overtime with a team that hasn't won a game yet. Toledo took them, messed around with them. They messed around with Wisconsin. I think you see the where they actually stand right now.
Yeah, I mean, since he's a good team, they're in the top 10 for a reason. It's not easy for AAC teams to get top 10 rankings necessarily. So, obviously there's a lot of respect for Luke Fickell and company, and rightfully so. They just proved their ranking. Whole lot of red there in South Bend, too, as they're showing Cincy go and celebrate near their section. And so, that's a great win for them. By the way, West Virginia and Texas Tech now all tied up, 17-17. So the Red Raiders are up 17-0 at halftime, which was surprising, and now it's 17-17.
Ole Miss just got a pick at the goal line.
Yep, that means Bryce Young loses all of his NIL money and his scholarship. But that's still 35-7. Okay, 4:56 is the time. A couple of other finals in the top 25 when we come back with Dave Aranda. Finals from earlier, I mentioned Georgia. Michigan, hey, you know what? Jim Harbaugh and company, that's a nice win, 38-17 over Wisconsin. Coastal Carolina, I mentioned that. Wake Forest. It's hard for me. Wait a minute. 24th ranked Wake Forest outlasts Louisville, 37-34. So that's the finals in the top 25 last night. We mentioned Iowa and Brigham Young both winning. The Cougars of Brigham Young 34, Utah State 20. When we come back, Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, on many things, well, his football team and Oklahoma State and the week. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, Sikkim 365 Radio. How do you go about, and you hear about different coaching cliches, 1-0, keep chopping wood, whatever, but handling success. How does that, is that just something that, does that come from the seniors, from the single digits, obviously the coaching staff, and is there kind of something you got to make sure it's there?
Yeah, I think it comes from just how you define it from the outset, that it's not outcome related, and it's about the process, and it's about how we do things, and it's about what our mindset is. in the work that we have in front of us, and it's about being intentional. Like the opposite of being intentional would be just whatever, or we'll see, we'll take it as it comes, or just autopilot or default mode. And so I think after every Saturday, on Sunday you've got yourself a new team. And so whether it's a guy never threw a pick and then he threw a pick, or a guy never fumbled and he fumbled, or a guy had a personal foul, or this happened or that happened. And so let's be real with what's real, and let's focus on those things, and let's tie those things back into who we are and what we believe. And I think just that process right there is an exhaustive one. So if we keep it on that, then that will take care of that.
Numbers, rankings, I think, are silly when they are before the season starts. Sometimes that college football playoff that comes out, I'm not talking about that, but it's after there's evidence. But you beat a top 15 team, and you beat a team that a lot of people had respect for. Watching that just go down, and watching how your team had the nice lead, how they held on, how proud were you, knowing where they were even at this time a year ago?
Yeah, I thought it was a culture game going into the game. I thought that the week of practice was the best week that we've had. I thought that in the hotel in the lead up to the game, a lot of good energy and confidence, and the sidelines during the game were positive in the face of whatever adversity there was. And so in a lot of ways, that's the win, that was a win prior to the win. And so, I think we talked about last time we were talking is the wins are way important, but more important than that to me is how you win. And so I think, I'd give an incomplete on that in terms of the grit and the resilience piece of it. We've just got to be much more cleaner in our approach. But I am proud of what everyone has put into it since January. To have it show up like that we can grit something out, it's pretty cool.
Penalties are kind of driving you nuts a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to look like that, and I just think that to be a team that's a physical one, that is that has a real strong identity and is a simple one, and one that doesn't hurt itself, I think is the goal. I know is the goal, and we're not doing it, And I feel like we got to get on the same page and get it done.
Terrell Bernard, when he went out, and you've said that there is a chance he'd get him back this week, or he might be back this week.
Right.
The way Matt Jones stepped up, you've answered all that. But what about knowing you have players that understand, whether it's that next man up mentality, whatever the terminology is, that you feel like you have that depth now at most of your positions?
Right. Yeah. I go back, Abram Smith a year ago when Terrell was down. And then, just the move from Abram now to running back. And, I just think we've got gym rat guys and grinders and guys that love football and guys that want to invest. Like tonight, we'll have the majority of the team up here watching tape of Oklahoma State and grinding away and asking questions and all of it. And it'll be like that tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night. And so it's just one of the things I think that separates us. And I think when you have a culture like that, you're going to grow guys like Matt that just, hey, put me wherever and let's go.
There were probably 2 to 4 times when Breece Hall or someone could have gone even longer, and somebody did not give up on the play, whether they're on the other side, chase it down. I think Neal made a play like that. What does that say about your team? I've talked about the blocking downfield last time we talked, but now even that even if it looks there's no way, they are trying to get to that play.
Yeah, I think it's strong. I think on one end, I'm disappointed with our execution on defense. I think Ron Roberts is the same, and our defensive staff surely is, and I know our players are. I think our players have much higher standards for us than what we put out on Saturday, and so I think it is a motivator for sure moving forward. But I think, despite that, just the grind and the effort, I think maybe showcase too much. It should be helped out with some execution and dependability in that. But I thought, towards the end, when you could tell stuff was where we were getting stretched thin in terms of alignment, assignment, execution, the effort was never in question.
Offensive lineman from back in the days when they were winning Big 12 titles, Cameron Koffold, sent me a text in the game in the first half. He said, "This is the best scheme executed offensive line play I have seen at least in 4 years." Not to be negative against anybody else, but I know the second half got more difficult. But do you see that? Have you seen, is it the scheme? Is it the player? Obviously, Eric and Jeff both have that offensive line mentality.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you look at starting the game. So I think just like the buildup of, run offense versus run defense, and then to start the game, Jeff had a lot of primary run looks for us, and they were all passes, right, to loosen it up and then get the runs going off of that. And so I think really well done in terms of those first couple drives, because it was the appearance of something and then it was something else. And then I think, just as that goes, once you kind of start the parlor game, then you just go late into the night, so you just got to keep going with it. And I think it's a good first dip into those waters for us, and we'll continue to get better at it.
What is it like now for you to walk into the office or get up in the morning and come to work to be a head coach at Baylor, and now that you've had this almost cycle of a year or so and you're seeing success, does that make a difference in how you approach work?
No. Yeah, I just like the to try to get the culture right, to try to get, I think I probably come out really strong with philosophy, and I don't know, I think you've mentioned it, like deep stuff, and I can't really help any of that. And so I just think there's certain guys that have been here for a while that were indoctrinated into something else, prior to me, and they was just way different. And so I think our ability to get on the same page completely, right, and to where, I think there's no reflection of a misunderstanding or this or that, I think is a lot of work. And I think, and when you're doing it without demanding it or really you're not forcing it, it's a lot of work.
When was the first time someone told you that you are a deep thinker? Is that a parent? Was it mom and dad? Was it a teacher? A coach?
I don't know. I think it's probably started just on defense, because I would, there'd be times where I was very, I would go visit however many schools a year, and I was at Cal Lutheran. I was undergrad, but I was coaching at a position, and so I would, drive any time to go visit Arizona State, USC, UCLA, and I don't know, you name it, Cal, Stanford, all up and down, and just to figure stuff out. How does this fit? How does this work? And I, just it was, I think the questions I was asking back then were probably deeper, and so you had to invest more into it. I'm thankful now that it was that way, but it was a lot of work in the process.
Gary Bohannon obviously has to, he'll improve, and part of the process, or so to speak. Last year, you just didn't go to your backups much at all. Mm-hmm. And there was always the question, why not? And there's ways of people analyzing that. Why didn't you? Or was it just you didn't want to get his brain fried? You didn't want to throw him to the wolves? You saw maybe what could happen down the road?
I think if I go back to that, I just remember, Charlie being so integral to the team. I think Charlie being one of the hardest workers on the team, and I could see like Charlie's care factor be strong. And along with that, I could see just the, I think you and I have talked about this before, about, the troubles with him. I could see that he was unhappy with results. He was unhappy with you name it. And I think trying to get to that spot in a relationship to where he could open up and trust me. I know he was talking to others, and I really wanted him to talk to me, and it was almost like a car crash, but it was just slow motion. Mm-hmm. And you could just see what was coming. And there's, as much as you tried to do something about it, there's nothing you could do. A lot of last year was that, and so you try to do, within your values, what is the best.
My last question, you have, it's so easy for players to leave now. What did it say that Gary has remained patient? Because it is easy to say, the heck with this, I'm going somewhere else. What is that? What did that show you?
Gary is someone whose insides, the way he's hooked up, and his care factor and his leadership abilities, I admire. And his work ethic, and just, not saying a lot, but doing a lot, and doing stuff because it's the right thing to do, not doing stuff because this is going to get me noticed or someone's going to take a picture of me doing it or any of that. I think he is very much cut from that cloth. And so when a guy like that has success, people see the way he's doing it and they respect him even more. And I think that has happened on our team.
Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda, Sikkim 365 Radio.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, we're back 5:18, wrapping it up here in 10 to 12 minutes. Update in the Big 12, Oklahoma had a 27-10 lead over K-State. It is now 27-17, and Kansas State recovered an onside kick, but there was an illegal touching. And it was a controversy. Lincoln Riley did a great job. The Big 12 officials reviewed it and said, no, they recovered 10 yards down the field, but Riley was talking about the double hit by the kicker. And Kansas State stopped Oklahoma despite the overrule on the onside kick, and they're driving again.
Well, yeah, they got the call in their favor, which it's amazing that Lincoln Riley had to beg for that. And the officials were just like, no, let's just keep playing. Like, no big deal, not a big call in the game or anything. But, yeah, then Spencer Rattler throws an awful interception. That offense, and that was following they get the first play after the onside kick review, false start, then had another false start right after that. This offense is just, man, it's not at all what we've become accustomed to seeing. And luckily for them, their defense is good enough to have a lead for them right now, and the offense has done just enough. But yeah, like some of the Rattler throws and some of the mistakes offensively are just, man, I don't see how they can overcome those for the rest of the year.
It's going to be interesting. They're going to have to really wake up and change some things. And we saw them do that on defense, Craig, a couple of years ago, where the defense wasn't good. It wasn't good. They figured out Alex Grinch, and all of a sudden it was good. But even still, it's just hard to see a team in season making those adjustments because sometimes it's just talent. They may not have the guys. Mm-hmm. So if you're not as good as the other guys, you're not all of a sudden going to get good. You know, it takes time. It takes, that doesn't really happen this season where, it's not untalented or talented guys that the light hasn't come on. It's just you're playing to about the level of your talent, and that's what it is.
I don't know. I mean, they have talent on paper, but then you can't block. You have a bunch of penalties, and then Spencer Rattler throws a terrible interception. I mean, it's going to get you beat. So you may not get him beat today, but it's going to get him beat at some point. Might be next week against Texas. Might get him beat today, though. I mean, it might. It's only a 10-point lead, and it's got the whole fourth quarter remaining. So we'll see how it goes. And now West Virginia in scoring position against Texas Tech, trying to retake that lead. It's 20-17 Tech,
and it's down to the last 5 or 6 minutes.
6 minutes to go, and West Virginia's already inside the 20. So a touchdown takes the lead, and then a field goal would tie it up. But if they don't score a touchdown here, that would be atrocious on the Mountaineers' part.
Bird word politics. Oregon looks horrible, so I can't talk right now. Maryland defense looked awful. Cincinnati came out hot against Notre Dame. Keith poses Skylar Thompson is the difference between K-State going 4-8 and 8-4.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
I mean, last year their record would have been drastically different if not for his injury. I mean, as soon as he got hurt, that whole thing started skidding off the rails, and Will Howard did what he could and whatnot, and then they had the whole Will Howard, Jaron Lewis thing the last week or so. But no, he's clearly their best quarterback, and he clearly makes a massive difference for them. And yeah, if he can stay healthy, then they're going to be a tough team to contend with for the rest of their schedule.
Oregon has just kicked a field goal to tie. Third-ranked Oregon has tied Stanford with less than a minute to go third quarter. They had a fourth down goal line stand. Stanford did earlier. This time Oregon kicks the field goal to tie it up at 17 apiece. Also, Alabama 42-7. Against Ole Miss. That thing's been over.
They've let their foot off the gas.
Late first quarter, yeah. And you know what? That's one of the things, a lot of times with the way teams play, and Alabama can put up points against anybody, But that'll end up being like 52-10 or 52-14, and they just grind it. They just grind you.
You ever watch? Yeah, I know you like nature shows, Smokey.
Yeah, I do.
You ever watch like a tiger take down an animal, and like the first couple minutes, the tiger's just ripping into it, and then the tiger just sits there and like eats little pieces. That's what Alabama's doing to Ole Miss right now.
Let all the jackals get it.
He's still eating, but he's just now
playing with his food.
Yeah. That Kansas State game, Oklahoma and Manhattan, has just started the fourth quarter. There's a long way to go. And that turn of events may have saved Oklahoma for a moment, but as Craig said, Spencer Rattler, there's been 2 or 3 throws that I've seen from him that just don't have anything on it. It's like it's either his fundamentals or he's just something's going on with him. And it also just might be he's making some bad throws, because that's obviously it as well. From Jay Bird, Oregon's best offensive player, C.J. Verdell, out with a bad ankle. Doesn't look good. And that could be a big injury, not only today, but the rest of the year as well. And what's the most hostile environment Baylor will play at this year? Stillwater has to be up there. This is from Scotty B as well.
Considering that
Jay Bird and Scotty
they have
B.
Oklahoma and Texas here.
Yeah, but I don't even think those would be the choices anyways.
But TCU is never hostile environment. We saw that today. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Where else? I mean, yeah, they don't. I mean, they're not playing at West Virginia.
They do play at Kansas State.
I was going to say
Yeah,
their toughest remaining road game is K-State.
Yeah.
I mean, besides today, will be right up there, if not the top one, and then K-State's still about 6 weeks away. So who knows if Skylar Thompson's still playing by then? Who knows what the records are? If Baylor's if they played next week, obviously that would be a raucous game. For K-State fans, who knows, 6 weeks from now or whatever. But, yeah, I would say today and then potentially K-State. But outside of that, I mean, everything else other than TCU's at home. So TCU will, be fired up, I'm sure, because it's a rivalry or whatnot. But, their crowd's never been one where you go, like, oh, man, got to go play in Fort Worth, like you don't hear that.
Yeah,
so.
and even when they have been there for the kill, it just hasn't been that way. As much as TCU and Baylor have a pretty rabid rivalry among what they do. From Scotty B, yeah, K-State is now third compared to Stillwater and TCU. I know TCU is not a tough place to play. Doesn't mean they don't get loud at times or whatever. But it didn't happen.
They have to look a little bit in the mirror now. TCU does. I mean, that's 2 losses in a row. SMU and
they
Bears.
are getting run on.
Oh
badly,
my God!
like 500 yards in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's close to 600. If I may be wrong on that, but yeah, they've given up chunks of rushing yardage, which is not typical for a TCU defense. So I don't know what's gonna change there, or if they can just get better as the season goes along. But yeah, they've got a little bit of a look in the mirror to do with those 2 losses in a row.
Scotty B, the Baylor King. It's vital to be solid on defense for Baylor. Offense besides special teams, Baylor does need to limit the mistakes and penalties. Of course, anytime you play, that's what you want to do. But on the road, it kind of amplifies a little bit when you have a turnover or your false start early, gets the crowd juiced up as well.
I mean, to me, the first thing to look out for is if they can run the football. I mean, if they can, then they have a good chance of winning the game today. If they can't, then it's all in the arm of Gary Bohannon. And while I think he can make some throws, you got to have that run game to complement what they do on or in Jeff Grimes' offense. So I know Oklahoma State will look to shut that down. But they're gonna have to find a way to do it.
I think they need to win this game very similar to the way they won last week too, which is get a play in the special teams, get a turnover. I mean, they didn't get turnovers necessarily from Iowa State early on, but get turnovers on Oklahoma State's side of the field. Give that offense short fields, basic stuff. But that's how I think that's the game plan for both these teams essentially, because they are very evenly matched when it comes to systems and defense. Oklahoma State has the tremendous advantage of their fans just being right on top of it. If Baylor's not ready for that, and they're guys who have played there before, but the last time that they played in Stillwater, it was during the day. That team was on a roll, kind of like they are now, but they're just on a roll and confident and made big plays, special teams, and turnovers that changed the game. So they're going to have to do that in a place like Stillwater, because you have to take that crowd. You got to make those kids with those paddles slapping the foam
get bored
or sit down,
or just kind of disenfranchised. Okay, so here we go. West Virginia's about to settle for a field goal. 4:36 left in that game.
They had a punch touchdown. That in, West Virginia. Come on now. That was inside the 15. Come on, you got to punch that in.
So this could, if in fact it's good, with 4:40 or so left in the game, tie this one up into the fourth quarter. West Virginia field goal by the Mountaineers is good, and so it's tied at 20 apiece. That's a huge game for both.
Hey, but good on Matt Wells and Texas Tech to go into Morgantown and hang. I mean, I didn't think that was going to happen. I know that's, Matt Wells is probably not long for that job if the season continues on its current trajectory, but even still, that's to hang with them. And the bigger problem with West Virginia is it looks like everything else there is pretty good, but their quarterback is so darn average.
Yeah, I'm tired of saying the same thing about Jared Dagey. He's average. I mean, like, he's the problem on offense, and like, it's just a repeat of every single week we talk about them. But, I mean, yeah, kudos to Tech for making it a game, but I'm not going to give them too many kudos when you had a 17-0 lead and now you're tied 20 at the end of the fourth quarter. Like, you had a 17-0 halftime lead, and all you've managed to do is kick one field goal in the fourth quarter, whereas you gave up a 17 spot in the third, and now you're hoping that West Virginia won't be able to stop you here in the last 5 minutes, and you can go kick a field goal to win this game. And if they win this game, that'd be huge for Matt Wells. But I saw a Tech fan earlier saying watching Matt Wells and Tech football makes them want to start smoking again. Like, that's the kind of vibe around the fan base, that even if they win this game, it's like, does it change anything really? No. I mean, does it really change anything? No.
Only if it allows them to win a couple of 2 or 3 games.
Yeah. But it doesn't. But it does. But like being up 17-0 earlier to squeaking out a win, like, yeah, that's still better than a loss.
Well, that's a lot like SFA. I mean, like you're kind of doing the same thing again. No, you're right, Craig. It shouldn't really change anything. I'm more probably giving credit to the players than I am the coaching staff.
I mean,
when I say that. But
yeah. I mean, credit to Tech if they win this game. Like, it's not over yet. So, I mean, yeah, if they win this game here in this last drive, credit to them. But still, I wouldn't be too excited by what I'm seeing today. I mean, you were earlier, but not in the last 2.5 quarters or last quarter and a half, really. So we'll see. 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes to go, and Tech will have the football all tied up.
All right, so here are the predictions. All three of us have picked Oklahoma State, correct? Last week, all three of us picked Iowa State, so we're really good at what we do. Every one of us, we've never missed a pick. All right, Paul, you give us your score again one more time.
I think it's going to be in the realm of Oklahoma State 31, Baylor 27, something like that. I think that the difference in the game is those kids with the paddles and just the atmosphere. Home game, Oklahoma State gets the win. But again, I've been wrong before, and this Baylor team is pretty good at proving me that way.
I've been tempted to switch my pick to Baylor. I got a feeling that really the only thing standing in their way is the fact this is a road game. I think they can beat Oklahoma State. I think they can go win today in Stillwater. I just am not ready to go full bore into that, so I'll stick with my Oklahoma State pick, although I expect a close game. I don't think either team's that much better than the other one. But as we know, a couple things early, and it can get crossways real quick, but if both teams stay as usual, then I think like a 27-24 type of a football game, I'll give the edge to the Cowboys.
All right, Armstrong, yell yours out to us. Tell us what you have. What do you think? You got the mic. That's where you go.
I think I have a mic. I haven't thought about it, but I definitely think Oklahoma State's going to win, and I think Baylor this might be a letdown game for Baylor, unfortunately. Probably like a 35-14 type thing. Just defense kind of rattled and...
Well, they give up a couple of big plays early and turn it over, whatever. That can happen on the road. It could happen at home. I've said Oklahoma State with this game, I think it's going to be like 30-24, something like that. I don't know if that many points will actually be scored, but I'm going to go ahead and think that way. All right, thanks to Armstrong Sims. Jack McKenzie was here earlier. Thanks to all of our incredible sponsors. Paul Catalina, happy Florida State's rolling over Syracuse.
No, they're about to go up by just 3.
And Craig Smoke, we're watching that Oklahoma and K-State game early fourth quarter. OU with the ball up by 10. I'm David Smoke. Thank you, everybody. Chat room, text room. We'll be post game.
Yep, that'll be me and a cast of thousands.
All right, today after Oklahoma State Baylor. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Good night.
Like and subscribe.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.